Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from. You have a tale. You matter. On this show, we strive to bring you the tales of people from Small Hope College in Holland, Michigan. So join us. Sit back, relax, kick your feet up, plug in the headphones or crank the music up on your drive, and just listen to our tales. Because it doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter who you are. You have a tale, and you deserve to be heard. Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else who has decided to join this podcast, thank you for joining the Tales of Hope. I am your host, Nick McNamara. If you do not know who I am, please take a moment, pause this episode, go back to the very beginning. I have 2 episodes up that explain who I am. I don't know why you're starting here. Go all the way back. Great show for you guys today. I've got a wonderful guest sitting across from me. But first, we have social media. You need to find us on there. We are on Facebook, Tales of Hope Podcast. Instagram, Twitter, at Tales of Hope Pod. YouTube, SoundCloud, just look for Tales of Hope. You'll find us there. Hey, great guest lined up for you right here. He is the men's basketball coach for Hope College. He is the season and career 3-point percentage king. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Mitchell.
Too kind, Nick. Too kind.
All right, well, take us all the way back. You're a Hope grad. You know how this goes. Your name, where you're from, all the goods, just like in college.
Yeah, hey, grew up in Okemos, Michigan. Prior to that, born in Indianapolis, Indiana. But we moved up to the Mitten State in my younger days and spent my educational career at Okemos. Loved growing up in Okemos. Great athletic tradition and came from a very active family. I was the youngest of 5 kids, and my dad was a college basketball player, and so we were all kind of born with basketballs and volleyballs and softballs and baseballs in our hands, and enjoyed a solid career at Okemos. Was a part of a couple of state championship teams, and after graduation, I actually went to Central Michigan University my first year, and was recruited by Hope and got just a little bit of interest from Central, but for me that was kind of enough to at least give the Division I world a try. Okay. And walked on and never dressed, just practiced all year, and by the end of that year realized I missed the competitive level, and so my mind quickly went to Coach Van Weren and the recruitment that he put towards me my senior year, and I gave him a call in the spring and asked if there'd be a possibility of transferring, and with open arms he welcomed me, and I made a great decision for me, personally, socially, academically, athletically, to come to Hope. And four great years here at Hope, and majored in physical education and minored in English. Was a longtime teacher and coach at Langsburg High School, 25 years worth. And then had the fortunate opportunity to come back and serve as a head basketball coach here as we start our 5th year.
Love to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
So what got you interested in the education field?
At Okemos, we were blessed with really, really good teachers and coaches. I mean, just about every coach was in the building teaching. And I thought that made a huge impression on me. I love sport, and seeing those coaches and interacting with them every day, I just always identified with them. And, again, love athletics. So I think for me, the chance to make athletics a part of my professional career was kind of a no-brainer, I guess. And but I give those teachers a lot of credit for opening those doors and just making school interesting and impactful and relationally significant. And I think I wanted to kind of serve in that same role as an adult. And of course, being a part of basketball, having basketball part of my life every year is pretty special, and certainly appreciate that.
Oh yeah. So, family life, what was that like growing up?
Well, like I said, a youngest of 5, so you learned to eat fast because food didn't last long on the table, that's for sure. But it was pretty busy. I mean, we didn't have the AAU, in junior pro world, we kind of had community activities, but we were always busy.
Right.
My dad served as our coach for all these sports, and again, being the youngest guy, I was always in a gym at a volleyball match with my sisters, or a swim meet, or a basketball game. And I loved it. I just loved being a part of that realm, and not growing up with video games, etc. It would just always, you get off the school bus, and what sport are we into? We're going down the street to play football or basketball or baseball or whatever. And so I thought my youth was just a blast. And I thought growing up in Okemos in the late 70s and then 80s was just a great time athletically. We had some really, really good teams with great coaches and tournament runs, which just made everything very, very exciting. Admired my older brother, who was 10 years older than me. We shared a bedroom. It's kind of unique to have 10 years apart from somebody. But he was kind of the guy I identified with. And then, my dad being a former athlete and a coach of all of our teams, we just kind of lived it all the time and loved it.
What was that like, having your dad as a coach?
That was up until essentially high school. So it was just all the rec teams and stuff. But I liked it. I mean, he was pretty easygoing. Never over-celebrated successes, but never got too down on us if things didn't go well. Very, very even-keeled guy. And that I thought that was a good thing throughout the high school level. Sometimes we'd have good games, and other times not so great. But he just kind of kept us even-keeled. Right. I'll go back to that, and I appreciated that because there was never too much pressure. Right. But the support system was always there.
So there was never a difference between coach dad and dad.
Not really, and that could have been different if he was a high school coach. But being it was just kind of community level stuff, there was not a whole lot of pressure. Our teams were usually pretty successful, just maybe because his children were pretty athletic. So we were kind of used to winning from a young age, which never hurts. Keeps people sane a little bit, I guess.
Oh yeah. So obviously did basketball in high school. What else did you do?
I ran track my freshman year, and just high jump, long jump, stuff like that. I actually sprained my ankle mid-track season playing basketball, and I never went back to track, believe it or not. That was kind of it. I played middle school football, like Pop Warner. Thought about playing in high school, but I was just never really passionate about the contact piece, to be honest with you. So I just focused on basketball and was just one of those gym rats for 4 years. Yeah.
Do you think, if you hadn't sprained your ankle, would you have continued?
Yeah, maybe I would have. I don't know. That was kind of a lame excuse to abort the track season. But as a jumper, it was my left ankle, and I was a high jumper, long jumper, so I really had no springs left that whole season in my foot. And I loved being in the gym. So I think at that point, track was kind of like it is today. It's a big social thing. And I just, once you take something pretty serious, it was easy for me to focus on just the one sport. And I was just kind of had that myopic focus, I guess, on basketball.
Now, outside of sports, did you do anything else?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Not enough, really. I mean, I didn't. We were churchgoers, but it was casual. We didn't really have a youth group to speak of. Just some typical family vacation stuff. But honestly, it was always a sport. I mean, that's what we did. I was a good student, not a phenomenal student. We call affectionately the student athlete term. I was probably the athlete student growing up. I loved school because there was sport attached to it.
Right.
But yeah, I was pretty consumed with just a variety of sports growing up.
So you said you went to Central first year. What made you choose Central?
Yeah, so a couple things. I got a couple of letters my junior year in high school, and I had some friends there. My wife, Dina, who I dated in high school, decided to go to Central, so that was a big influence as well. And I think at that age, when you're younger, you kind of see the Division I thing as a goal, and but it didn't take me too long to realize that was a little bit above my ability level and my potential. So I loved it. I learned a lot. I had some really cool roommates, Eric Nordman, Dan Marley, who went on to have a great career in the NBA, and just seeing their level of work and how hard they worked on their game, and then especially to see where Dan ended up. Right. It was pretty sweet. But I definitely miss that competitive side and being an integral part of a team. So the transfer to Hope was a great move for me.
Oh yeah. Outside of basketball, did you do anything else? in college?
In college, we had, I was a regular church goer at Christ Memorial, and I really identify with Tim Brown, the Reverend Tim Brown, who for a while was our public address announcer for our games, and I just, the way he delivered a sermon and just related to people, I thought he was just phenomenal, and he ended up being the one who married my wife and I, and so that was something we definitely look forward to. But I was not a real social guy. I wasn't a party goer or anything like that. Just kind of did our thing. Enjoyed the time with my teammates who were my housemates and played a lot of ping pong. Our senior year, our house, we got rid of the kitchen table and bought a cheap ping pong table. So we'd be up to all hours of the night playing ping pong and just doing what college guys do. But loved it. Yeah, I definitely was not the most diverse guy when it comes to doing a lot of different activities. But I would help out with clinics and work in camp for Coach Van Weren and things like that. So I was kind of all sport related, I guess.
Now, kind of cutting away from school, talk about faith and how that plays a role in your life.
Well, I'd like to tell our players and anybody who will listen, it's nice to have the ultimate teammate on your side. I mean, just having a faith component in your life gives you balance and gives you that roadmap, I suppose, and it's consistent. God is consistent, and we all need that life coach, I guess. And so being at Hope College, I think that's a blessing because we see a genuine spirituality in students and staff members. If it's one of those situations which we talk about a lot in the recruiting process for faith-based prospective students, that if you want that as a part of your life here at Hope, it's genuine and it's there, it's real, which I love. I mean, I love how chapel is crowded and it's authentic. So for me, it's fun to be in men's groups with some of my peers or lead some student groups, which I've done in the first 2 years I was here, and just connecting with students on that level is, it's very exciting, to be honest with you, and see, what God does in people's lives and just helps transform us and shape us. A great example was going on the mission trip this past May to Africa, and 12 student athletes were with us, and just seeing how they poured their souls into an impoverished setting, but did it with such genuine love and compassion. That's just God working, and so I feel blessed to be at Hope and kind of rediscover that, because I think when I was here as a student, I didn't take full advantage of that opportunity. I wasn't a regular chapel attendee. It didn't have the same vibe that it does now. But second time around, I feel really blessed that's a significant part of my life at Hope.
Yeah. And then talk about the impact that Coach Van Weren had in your life. Because for those of you listening, if you don't know who Coach Van Weren is, he was, I'd say, one of the best coaches here at Hope, arguably.
Yeah, well, and I don't think there's a big argument there in my world. I mean, it's a 33-year veteran. His name's on our floor for a great reason. He built the program, just working hard not to screw it up, and the great thing about Coach is he was a fabulous role model, father, husband, coach, friend. Did things the right way, man of faith, and he brought so much passion to the game of basketball. Without realizing it, I think he would get us so excited to play, because if I just take an example, just like a pregame speech, it could be something really, really simple that he's discussing, but the emotion he would deliver his content with just let you know how much it meant to him, and so you wanted to play hard for him because you know how much it meant to him. But the best thing about Coach is he's a role model, he's a father figure, and it isn't in the past tense, it's in the present tense. I mean, we still talk regularly, and I seek his counsel here and there, and he'll give me a call after a tough loss or after a big win, and just want to celebrate it or offer an ear. But what I get most from him is just love and support, which is awesome, because here's a guy who did so many great things, and he could easily judge or be the type of a person that, hey, nobody's going to live up to my legacy, and he handles it just the opposite. He fills me up with support and compliments, and it means the world. So I'm here at Hope College because of Coach Van Weeren, and that's the way it was as a student athlete, and certainly as a coach now.
Oh yeah. All right, so take us back to your playing years at Hope. Talk about some of your favorite memories of being out on the court.
Yeah. Well, those listeners that are old enough to remember the Civic Center, it was a great time. I mean, it was a loud, raucous place that we thought was the best place to play in, and I still felt that way, of course, until I walked into DeVos and realized, wow, Civic wasn't so special. But the Civic Center was great, but it's just the memories of being with the guys, and I think most athletes will tell you this, whether it's locker room or bus or hotel or house on campus or whatever, the camaraderie, the rapport, the laughter. I think the ins and outs of stats and wins and losses kind of vanish over time, but nothing takes the place of those relationships. I just went to a football game the other night with Eric Elliott, who was my housemate for 2 years and the head coach at Hudsonville, and stood up at my wedding, and it's just like we never, time can go on, but those memories and connections don't disappear, and just being with them and laughing and yucking it up is, I don't know, we often talk about certain people are just Hope guys or Hope men or whatever. Right. It's just a fit. There's something about this culture and vibe that we have, and it's a camaraderie. It's a collective. I don't know, just a chemistry, I guess, that builds through a successful program. I think basketball provided that for us. But those are the biggest. I mean, there are games that I remember and championships we won, but all in all, it's the relationships and
right.
and that tightness it built, and we still have it. So guys will still, connect and ask me how things are going. We've had some reunions of sort, and those are priceless, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like if I ask any coach, they're going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I would certainly hope so, because and we try to get that across to our current players. I mean, the game, we want to win every time we play. But
exactly.
Boy, don't forget the importance of just loving on your teammates and really appreciating the time you spend together.
All right. So now we're out of Hope. What was your first job after graduating?
So before I took, my first job, real job other than summer jobs, was the job that I had for 25 years. I became the head coach at Langsburg High School, an elementary physical education teacher, and varsity coach right out of Hope. I was 23, and they took a little gamble on a young whippersnapper. I get the job in part because of Coach Van Weeren, my high school coach, and some of the Hope advising staff that called on my behalf to say, hey, this would be a good hire. And I thought I'd be there for 3 years at a smaller school and, kind of work my way up. I had some aspirations to go to grad school as a graduate assistant at Michigan State, interviewed for that position a couple of times, didn't get it, and just kind of stayed at the high school level. Eventually became a high school English teacher. They got me out of the elementary school. I wanted to be with my athletes as a varsity basketball coach, and coached high school English for 10 years. I did teach for 3 years at Okemos High School and then came back to Langsburg. But so 25 years of teaching and coaching. Loved it, and it went very, very fast. Small community life was very different than my life in Okemos. We had a high school of 370 students, and so as a teacher and as a coach, you wear a lot of hats and you assume a lot of roles,
right?
Which to me was great. I like leading, I like coaching, I like connecting with students, and so I met a lot of kids and was a part of their lives for a long time, and that was, to me, I think I acquired that at Hope College. I think the professors and coaches here and advisors that pour themselves into you, it seemed like a natural thing for me to do as a teacher and coach, and I loved it. And raised 4 kids in that environment. They all graduated from Langsburg, and then lo and behold, we get the Hope job, and so my kids are able to come to Hope, and 2 of them have graduated, and I have a senior now and a sophomore, and I'm loving it that they're getting the Hope experience as well.
Good. And talking about your family, you said you and your wife dated back in high school. Mm-hmm. Go back to that and talk about that.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to date, I put date in quotations, air quotes there, for 1 week in 7th grade before she dumped me. But we rekindled the flame in high school. just after our state championship game my sophomore year. I believe March 21st, 1982.
Ooh.
We went to Wendy's, had a great dinner at Wendy's, right? And we started dating after that, and it wasn't always easy. There were some hiccups along the way, but then, and like I had mentioned, we went to Central Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I transferred to Hope, and then she actually transferred to Hope a semester later. So she, was blessed to have a Hope experience, played tennis here, and was in the ed program, and is an elementary teacher now, and has had a wonderful teaching career. I definitely married the right person.
Right.
She was, my best friend, a great mother to our 4 kids, and an unbelievable teacher. She is just a dynamic classroom teacher who, kids are certainly blessed to have her instruct them and be a part of their lives. So, but yeah, that's the.
Talk about your kids, because I know I've met Quincy, but you said there are 4 of them?
Yeah, we have 4. Aaliyah's our oldest, and they're all 2 years apart. So, Aaliyah's 25 now, I believe, and Quincy 23, Jalen 21, and Bryson is 20. And Aaliyah graduated with a communication major. Is working in the Macatawa Bank training program.
Okay.
She's on her 2nd year there and doing great things. Quincy, as you mentioned, social work grad, and now she's at TCU down in Fort Worth, Texas.
Wow.
In a 1-year grad program, doing really well down there, kind of spreading her wings and becoming very, very independent. And Jalen, senior, education, early education major, and I think she, much like her mother, is gonna be a real dynamic teacher. She just has that infectious personality to love on kids. And then Bryson, sophomore, business is going to be his track, and they're kind of all finding their way. It's awesome that I get to, I'm that dad that saw his kids for the most part through their high school era, and now he gets to see them through college, which what a blessing it is for me. It might be a curse for them, but
I was going to ask, how did they like it?
I think it went really well. I was smart. I think I got some good advice about always giving them their space. So even at the high school level, as a phys ed teacher, I could distance myself. The gym was kind of at the other end of the building, and I think I went to, one child's locker once in 4 years. I mean, I definitely tried to disappear and vanish. It's hard to be especially in a small school, a coach's kid or a teacher's kid and still have an authentic high school experience. So it wasn't always perfect, but I think we handled it pretty well. And credit to them for tolerating their dad too.
Oh yeah. Any travels or any other experiences that have led you to the man you are today?
Oh goodness. I mean, it's just the people that you're around. I think you try to surround yourself with the right people that sharpen you. But we haven't. It's funny you say that, because I was talking to my wife last night. We've been a little bit sheltered in the travel world just because, again, the job, it never seems to end. I mean, summer has summer camp, summer training, et cetera, attached to it, and we just never really traveled a bunch. So that's kind of been a bummer. But our families have always been nearby, so we've been blessed to have a lot of family gatherings and just those times that you cherish. And both of our sets of parents are still alive and well, and it's great to still have those connections, and we appreciate that. But I think back of certain individuals that when you talk about people that impacted me or shaped me, and whether when I was a little kid it was a high school athlete that spent a lot of time with me, or as an adult just surrounding yourself with people who kind of get it and aren't afraid to help you toe the line, and whether that's your religious connection or just a social connection. It's really important to have people in your circle that challenge you and lift you up, but also hold you accountable when you need to be held accountable. And I've been blessed to have just great people. I mean, all the way up until when I get this job. And Coach Davalar is a great example of somebody who was an assistant coach here at Hope when I played, and now he's an assistant coach sharing the bench with me. And he's wise, and he provides great counsel, but most importantly, great friendship. And having those people in your lives makes life so rewarding.
Oh yeah. Talk about your leadership philosophy as a head coach.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to Coach Van Weeren and my high school coach, Coach Stoltz. I think I took pieces of them both. Coach Stoltz was a little bit more of kind of a disciplinarian, high expectation, wasn't super strong in the relationship department. That softened as he got older and I got older.
Right.
But while I was a player, it was just a guy you respect because of his intensity, I guess. Coach Winter was intense, but he was also great from a relationship standpoint. Office door was always open, and he poured himself into you in all facets of life. So I think from a leadership standpoint, I mentioned those two because I think it's a balance of, accountability and intensity on the court, but also building that relationship of trust. Mm-hmm. I think you can demand and get more out of your players if they believe in you and you have that relationship. And I'm far from perfect, but I think, I think my players know I care about them, and I'll be there for them on and off the floor, whether it's basketball related or life related. And, I think I'm a guy that does love to win, that is intense, but also knows the balance of making sure you build on those relationships, because it isn't all about the final score, as we know. Right. And I think we're getting a lot more out of our players if they know there's a reciprocal belief and there's a level of trust. And then I think you can really, then I think the sky's the limit, because with that belief comes that ability to reach your potential. And I hope that's what our guys believe in.
Now, outside of, your personal life, like, is there anybody, go to D1, anyone like Coach K, or, anybody like that you try to model your philosophies after?
Yeah, it's a good question. Coach Izzo was always in our backyard, just because Langsburg is very close to East Lansing, and I was a regular attendee at his practices. So I certainly picked up a lot of kind of the X and O part of basketball from him, and probably the level of intensity. But I think at his level and what's allowable at the Division I world versus high school or D3, whether it's choice of words or whatever, you got to be pretty cautious. But I think with him too, though, I would say he has a great rapport with his players, and you can see that in the off season. You can see it, sometimes it's hard to see during a game because he's super, super intense, but if you talk to his players, they know how much he's got their backs. But I think, I've always been drawn to like a Brad Stevens or a Coach K. I mean, I think the sideline demeanor is one of the importance where you have control, but I think, the real work, in my opinion, is done on the practice court, and that's when the intensity is ratcheted up and you're demanding more out of your players. So I think they're both like that too. But you got to be yourself ultimately. I don't think you can authentically be who you need to be. That builds that trust that I talked about when you're trying to be somebody else. I just don't think that works. Yeah. And I think my first year or two at Hope, that was probably a challenge because I inherited somebody else's players, Coach Neal's players, and so trying to build that trust and rapport was kind of odd and strange. So I probably wasn't truly myself from the DNA level, but I feel like this is my fifth year, and there's just a level of calm and comfort and more authenticity with who I think I am, and so I look forward to that.
The Celtics fan is me, and me is happy you said Stevens.
Yeah, well, that's because he was a Butler guy, so I hate to, Nick, I'm not a huge Celtic fan because when I was growing up, it was Magic and it wasn't Bird. So I was a Laker guy and a Piston guy. The Celtic green kind of made me cringe, but the level of respect I had for Bird and especially Coach Stevens, now I don't think there's anybody better in the business than Coach Stevens. He obviously look at what he's been able to do through injury last year, and they're still exceptional. So I think he's kind of the man right now, which is awesome. So,
so as we wrap it up here, go back to your freshman self. Write a little letter to them about what to expect and what to do, what not to do.
So a letter from me to my freshman self. Yep. Oh, interesting. Well, I think if I were to tell myself or my players as they're coming into being a freshman, is a little bit what I've touched on is just make sure, number one, you surround yourself with the right people. You're going to become your surroundings. So those are really important choices that you make. And sometimes you might have to be a little bit lonely and sacrifice the fun factor or the attention factor, so you can really identify with what's going to work for you. And, hey, that might be just getting off to a great start academically. I mean, the little things of sitting in the front row, introducing yourself to your professor and try to, become a a name and a person rather than just somebody taking notes in the back of the room, because Hope is a special place, but you have to, you got to find your niche at Hope. And whether if you're an athlete, I guess there's an advantage because you have a group, but I don't care what it is. If you're into the pull, or you're into dance marathon, or a sorority or a fraternity, a club, an organization, the campus ministries, you got to have something that helps you identify not only yourself as you, but with a peer group. So getting off to that kind of a start socially is really, really important. Because it can be hard if you feel like you're flying solo or you don't really have that identification. I think you're missing the boat. And and I wasn't necessarily that person as a student. I definitely, as an athlete, it really helped to have those teammates right away.
Right.
But yeah, connecting with people, getting off to a great start, and just taking advantage of the awesome people on this campus. We are blessed with the great resource of people. We have these awesome facilities, and we have a great tradition, athletically, academically, spiritually. But man, there's nothing like the people of Hope College. They really care for you, and to me, it seems like they bring out the best in you. So that would be the letter to my freshman self, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And one last thing, rate your life from 1 to 5. 1 being, this is nothing I expected it to be, or 5 being, this is everything I thought it would be.
Look at that. That's a big time question right there. It kind of, it goes up and on one hand, I'm going to say 5 because I'm at Hope College. I'm here at a place that I love so much, and sometimes just driving to campus, I have to pinch myself when I get to work and say I get to work in DeVos Fieldhouse, and I get to work under Tim Schoonvelds of the world and be a colleague of Brian Morehouse and Peter Sturzma. It's a great place to be and work. Are there some things that maybe I might have aspired to be back in the day that would make that number a 4 or a 3, perhaps at times. There are decisions you make as a dad or a husband or a friend that you probably wish you could do differently. But, I think if you at least look at yourself a little deeper in the mirror and realize you're going to make mistakes, and you try to atone for those and make the best choice tomorrow, then you shouldn't have too many regrets. And so, hey, had a healthy life, healthy family. So those are 5s across the board. And again, having the chance to coach and teach and work at a place like Hope is pretty awesome. So ultimate grade would probably have to be a 5.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being the first guest too. Setting the bar a little high here, I'd say.
Yeah, maybe I'm just I'm a curve creator. Everybody can bust that curve by coming in a little stronger. But it is a pleasure, Nick. I enjoyed it.
Hey, and all of you, again, like I said at the beginning, we've got a bunch of social media for you guys to check out. You can find us Facebook at Tales of Hope Podcast. Search it, you'll find us. Instagram, Twitter at Tales of Hope Pod. YouTube, Tales of Hope. SoundCloud, Tales of Hope Podcast. Find us all there. Guys, you can be collegiate basketball coach like Greg. You can be a janitor like me. You can be anywhere in between. It doesn't matter. You have a tale. Your life deserves to be told about. And don't think that you're anything less than you are. So, this is Nick, and I will see you guys next week.